Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's. What are we doing today? Album review. Today's album
Yeah, let's
review.
do one of them.
Let's do one of them for the hell of it. Right. Let's have a look at today's request. Share screen. So then I'll look. So this is coming from Drum Master. Thank you for that. He's one of our regulars on our channel. So he's requesting Amends by Grey Daze. That sound familiar to you?
No.
Okay, so Grey Daze is Chester Bennington's first band he was in before he joined Linkin Park. In 2017, they planned on reuniting and recording his new album, but sadly, in July of that year, he passed away. The other members decided to finish the album by using vocals that Chester recorded in the 90s on Grey Daze's first two albums when he was in his mid-teens to early 20s and used newly recorded instrumentals to finish the songs. I chose this because not only is this album a tribute to Chester, but so you guys can see some of the work he has done outside of Linkin Park. So quite an interesting sort of concept, this one. Here is the album. Can you see the Wikipedia page?
Yes.
You can see here. It was released in 2020, but it was recorded in 94 to 97, the vocal part. And then instrumentals were added, as was written the comment there by Drum Master in 2017 to 2019. So quite unusual. And let's have a look here then. So the album is considered to be grunge alternative rock, 37 minutes long, so a short album. The track listing is here. So 11 tracks, all kind of, relatively short, kind of mid-length kind of tracks, I suppose. We won't do the Japanese bonus tracks. So, what are you thinking, Brett? This what type of thing?
Yeah, it's a hard one. So, I mean, taking Linkin Park initially, as we've spoken probably before, there's some bits, some songs Linkin Park really do like, but most are probably not the biggest fan of. And I can't help but think, you know, Chester in his youth days was probably a bit more rebellious and a bit more loud and a bit more then probably the Linkin Park days, maybe, or it could be different. And maybe it's something a bit more different, a bit more, just maybe a bit more different before you then go into Linkin Park days. So either way, regardless of any of that, my negativity stuff there, the concept, of this stuff beforehand and all being recorded and produced after his death is going to be a really sort of interesting take from there. So either way, it's going to be a real interesting album to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, as for me, I'm not going to get my hopes up for this one. I don't really think it's generally the sort of music I'm going to like, would like. I mean, with Linkin Park, yeah, there's a few songs there that I do like, but generally it's not really my cup of tea. And yeah, this is, as I said, classed as grunge, alternative rock. So it'd be interesting to see what Chester's work was like before he joined Linkin Park, and also just the fact it's old vocals with this sort of new instrumentals added to
Instrumentals,
it.
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't expect us to kind of really pick up on that or like notice that in the songs, but it's something to think about, in case we do maybe. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting one from from that point of view. But like I say, don't think I'm going to be overly keen on it. But who knows? Could be in for a surprise, and it's not a very long album either. So yeah, looking forward to it in some regards. So yeah, that's it from us for the moment. But don't worry, we're not going anywhere. You'll see us in just a few seconds having listened to the album. So we'll be back with you in just a sec. Right. Well, we've now listened to the album, so we're going to happily tell you what we thought of it in great detail, shall we say? So we're going to going to get straight into it as we now do. The first track then was Sickness. So I put here has a kind of calm feel to it. And then it comes to a peak towards the end. You know, sort of like a bit metal-like, I'd say. But overall, not bad. As I often say, you know, the first song is sort of like, you know, first impressions. And it was okay for me. It wasn't, I feel like it could have been worse. So it was an all right start. I like the calmness that I felt through parts of the song as well. About you, sir?
Yeah, so I mean, I've written here surprising start, but I remember from my introduction, I didn't really know what to expect anyway. So it's a bit weird to have written that. You've kind of said same sort of things that I was pretty much going to say, and not to give too much away, pretty much could say that for most of the tracks we're going to go through. But yeah, really like the sort of slowish tempo, and obviously it builds up in parts as well. What I've actually really picked up on the first sort of track, which I'm gutted I didn't get to pick up a lot more, was actually a bit more on sort of the lyrics as well. I really could feel something more from it. So one of the standout ones, like from the chorus, like it says about like, "Can you help me? Feeding my sin, come help me." And as we know, this is an album created after the death of the lead singer, Linkin Park, Chester. I've forgot his surname, so I'm just known as Chester. Yeah, it really sort of made it a bit more eerie in terms of everything that was sort of going on, how it sort of built up. I said we'll talk about that as we always go on, but as that first song, I think actually pretty much said there, good song, definitely not the worst. Definitely heard a lot worse of songs, and it does set the tone for what we're going to be expecting from the album.
Yeah. So the next track then was Sometimes. So I'd say this gave me a bit of an unexpected instrumental start. Maybe I'd describe it as stoner's music. But yeah, it's still somehow, okay, maybe because I'm saying it's stoner's music, it did have that kind of calm feel to it, despite it not being soft, calm music. That makes sense, a bit contradictory. And I'd say due to that reason, I didn't dislike this song, but it was kind of like the first song, that kind of maybe on a similar kind of par with track number one.
Yeah, so I didn't go down sort of the drug roots sort of tone of it, apart from obviously the obvious song that has drugs in the title, which we'll get to eventually. That's probably a good way of saying it because they have that same sort of, and like this one has that an even slower sort of introduction start. And I've put here the sort of, I feel like classic Linkin Park elements when it starts. I put the term sort of screaming, but I mean that in their comedy is not like that sort of, you call it that sort of heavy metal sort of part music of it. I play it sort of almost a cross between sort of Nickelback and Linkin Park. But like you, didn't dislike it. It was actually quite listenable in a strange way. And I think maybe like a druggy kind of song is a good way to probably explain it.
Okay. So track three was What's in the Eye. So I'm generally not as keen on this song compared to the first two. To me, it didn't have that same sort of calming effect as the first two songs. Although at the same time, I wouldn't call it an overly intense song either. But this one for me just didn't like this one as much.
Yeah, and it's interesting to say that because I do get where you're coming from as well. Because you almost even had an even slower, more relaxed start. I think maybe it's because then when you had what I'm calling the Linkin Park there, I think that felt really more a little bit more intense in the previous song, even
Yeah.
though the slow bit was more. So it's almost like it was a bigger contrast between the two. And that's probably why I maybe didn't like that one sort of there as much. But I said, it's still sort of back of my mind thinking about, how this album's been being produced, and he's, as we know, talks about in the introduction, lyrics and songs he'd recorded before, but not been put to music and all been done afterwards. So it still has that kind of sort of eerie kind of intriguing elements that I'm feeling from it there. But yeah, not as good as sort of the first. I should have said the first track's been my favourite one so far. Second one a little bit better. This one not as good as the second.
Yes, that's a good point there. So when this did start, this song, I did actually put down again all that same kind of like calming effect, sort of. But then it wasn't long before it really sort of went really sort of loud, and that's I actually deleted what I put. So it was true at the beginning. It was nice and calm, but it's soon lost all that. So track 4 was the Syndrome. So I was really liking. I like the start of this. Not so keen on the loud part, but the song again definitely has that calming effect that I keep referring to, and I could really feel the emotion in this song as well. So you touched on it earlier on. Obviously we know about this, how this guy, it's called Chester. Yeah, Chester. How his life ended, in what circumstances. I saw Wikipedia. He was struggling with addiction, drug addiction, and problems at school. He was bullied a lot, and I don't know. I just felt with this. I'll talk more about it obviously at the end, but I could just, don't know. I could just feel some like raw emotion in there.
Yeah, that's so weird how you decided to sort of talk about at this point in the song as well. Because even though I said I've been mentioned previously, because again at this song I felt in the first one and hadn't felt against it until again to this one. And then just to add on what you were saying as well. So I didn't know if you saw this bit as well, where 2 months prior to Chester taking his own life, he was good friends with another musician called Chris, and he also took his own life literally 2 months prior to Chester doing the same for himself. Really, actually, Chester committed suicide on what would have been his friend's 53rd birthday as well. So really, really strange sort of circumstances in there. But I really sort of felt more of this with the song, and what I will bring back to music about is like sort of this one, like with all of them really, is what I call sort of Linkin Park thing, where I think for me and you, if I speak on your behalf, like in the end is probably our go-to Linkin Park song. I think you're a fan of that song, and that's really good. Where it has a sort of really sort of slow, calming thing that Chester sings really well, and then he goes and he changes it so sharply, so quickly into this sort of it's almost like two alter egos. And I wonder, the reason I'm going into this is thinking, is that sort of persona of his life and what led to his potential end, almost like, should I say, I don't know, he had a difficult upbringing, but it's almost like these two sort of personalities coming through with the music and stuff. So yeah, that's it. Really got me thinking at that same point of the same song, really. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, the point you made there. Track 5 then was In Time. This one was another slow start, like most of these so far. Again, like the beginning. And I like the fact that this song sort of stayed low key for the most part. It did sort of get loud towards the end as the emotion spills out. So unlike some of the other songs, I think with some of the other songs, they start off slow, then they have like a loud part, go slow again, loud part. Whereas this one, it was like pretty slow and calm for the most part, like I said, and then it's only at the end where it really kind of got loud. And I think for me, I've put here possibly the best song so far.
Yeah, again, we're very much in sync. I also think this is probably the best song so far. I think it's probably on par with the first one for me, but I have put a little smiley face next to this one. And again, everything that you said there, I think we found where what I'm calling the screams or the Linkin Park bit wasn't as loud as intense as the previous ones. I felt more sort of an emotional connection um, with that one there, and there was sort of some clapping in the background. So yeah, really sort of kind of like a listenable, likable kind of song. Not to give away towards the end of the album, but I said if this was a a random song I had on my playlist, would very much enjoy kind of listening to it.
Okay. So the next track then was Just Like Heroin. So I quite like the start of this one too. I don't like the loud screechy part. And again, I just think this song fits in with the rest of the album. I'm going to say three words here. Well, actually, it's four words, but one of them is just a linking word. That I think sum up, they actually sum up the album quite well. But I actually put it just for this particular song. But soft, emotional, and hard. So it has that sort of combination of the soft and hard and emotional at the same time. So they're the three standout words for me: soft, emotional, hard.
Yeah, I think that sums it up very well. And we haven't sort of talked about them, so we're sort of at the end. Like in terms of the variation, I think there's sort of very little variation in the grand scheme of things. I think there are variables to each of the songs in some way, but in hindsight, soft start, rocky Linkin Park bit, but emotional ties to it as well. And this really shows that one there. I've also put here, it kind of sounds a bit more like Nirvana in this one. I think it probably just has that little bit more of that sort of kind of rock, very hard to sort of, even though you can feel emotion, they're probably not trying to get much out of it. And only can tell just by the title, having hair in the title, it kind of, not that I know what it would be like to them, but it kind of had the title fits. Well, I say the title fitted well with the song itself.
Okay, that brings us on to track 7, which is B12. This one is more intense, doesn't have that softness and calmness to it, unlike most of the others. This one didn't really do it for me. A bit like with track 3, which I wasn't particularly keen on. This was another one that just kind of passed me by.
Yeah, I think if I had to put one as my classic line of saying, experimental track, it could closely to be this one. Just purely, I think, I don't remember this was at the start. I had like the sort of the talking, rapping parts to this one, which were okay, something a little bit different, but also didn't bring enough. So you said it almost becomes unmemorable in a sense there, but at least something a little bit different in that sense.
So the next one was Soul Song. Don't have much to say on this one. It's another song with calmness mixed in with loudness. So again, going back to that sort of soft and hard stuff there. So this one, yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, again, classic style song for the album. Really sort of slow, relaxing kind of start. The Linkin Park bits, and again, sort of emotional stuff from there. Again, this is another one I actually did pick up some of the lyrics as I was going through it. And again, it's mainly coming from the chorus, where he sings about "I will be waiting." Written song is in my soul, which is in very basic in some regards. And then it sort of gave me to think about, again, as we were saying before, like they say how, writing songs or drawing paintings or some form of art where it can almost be an insight to themselves, even though there's probably a lot of people just enjoying it for the rockiness, and actually was there like deeper meanings to it, especially this sort of stuff. Well, I don't know where they got these original lyrics from, Chester, if they're written in a book or if they have been recorded, or in some regards, I don't know fully, but it really, when you can pick on the lyrics, it really does give sort of an insight and see the thing, well, how did no one really know or see he was potentially struggling? I don't know. Very strange.
So the next track was More's Sky. So it sounds like a slow one. And it has its moments as it builds up. Not a bad song, this one. Again, I can feel the real emotion there. So I think this is one of the better songs for me, this one. Not bad.
Yeah, again, really fun emotion, but again, unlike the others, really didn't pick up too much more on sort of the lyrics. nice difference with this one here. We had almost like we had a like piano introduction. I think there was piano bits throughout, and I was more intrigued also with the title, like more well what that meant. The only thing I got close to that was it was Portuguese for lived, which again does fit in quite well with everything we're talking about and for what the album's trying to do as well.
Next track was She Shines. It's quite difficult to say. Can you say that? She Shines.
Especially me, my sort of, I really struggle. She shines, she shines, she shines. Say it 3 times very quickly. The struggle.
She shines. She shines. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't like the start of this. This was quite unusual because it really kind of got heavy from the off. Feels very metal. The song's just too intense for me, to be honest. But I thought potentially the whole album could be like this. Now, thank God it wasn't, but that was how it could have potentially been with this, type of music. So didn't like the song, but I'm just grateful that this was like the other songs weren't like this, basically.
Yeah, I haven't got a lot to say on that. So it's quite similar to some of the ones I had there, but I agree that it was a bit more intense on the Linkin Park parts than any of the other parts. And again, I've written here said it's frustrating because I actually would really want to pick up. And I know we'd never really pick up the lyrics. There's only been like a couple I've been able to do it here, but kind of feel like for this sort of stuff, really, I know I could bring lyrics up, but that's not what it's about. We want to try and listen to it for what it is. But it'll be good if we're able to pick up the lyrics a bit more on songs like these as well. Otherwise, yeah, nothing stands out for the album.
Yeah, but me and you, we're really thick. We're not clever enough to pick up on lyrics, are we? So
We're just simple guys. We just like to we could just concentrate on one element at a time.
Yeah, simple guys.
So that's the more that, yeah, simple.
So last track then was Shouting Out. It looks like we got a slow one to finish things off, which we did. I felt this song had a different feel to it, and it was a decent ending to the album. Now, I suppose maybe looking more into it, shouting out, like shit, because again, I didn't pick up on the lyrics. Shouting out what? Shouting out for help, maybe? Because he's struggling, I don't know. But as for the actual sound of the song, I thought it was good. That's the sort of ending I generally like, a nice way to end an album, nothing too intense.
Yeah, as it started, I was thinking, I wonder if this is going to stay all the way through, because I think it'd be a nice way to end the album. And as we got halfway through, it's like, oh yeah, this is a good sort of end of album song, and it seems very fitting. I actually quite like this one. This is probably my second favourite, second or joint third on the album. And as you said there, again, the lyrics I wanted to try and pick up on but couldn't. And so much so, like even right at the end, we had so obviously it was Chester sort of whistling, not like Enrique kind of whistling, actual standard whistling. And there was I don't know if the version you heard where there's a little bit of like a recording, which sounded like it was from a voicemail or something.
Yeah.
I couldn't even pick up on that. I even actually, because I knew it was our song, rewound that to try and pick up. I think I heard him say his name. It sounded like it was voicemail. Just one saying, "It's Chester here." Something of it. I love you. But even then, I really struggled to pick up, which is a shame because I think a lot of all of this, I think, is a big part of it. Now, other people may have listened to it and picked up a lot more on that, or people who are less simple than us, able to do that a lot better. But I feel like that's probably the one thing I would probably want to have got more from the album, which is, I know it's my own thing. That's the way it goes. But I don't feel after time I don't want to be able to have to go out for that. They should just be able to have them listen to it to come through.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're summing up. I think I'll go first. I think like that's probably about as good as it could have been for me, based on, I'm not a huge fan of Linkin Park. It's not really my music that I would listen to generally. So going into this album, which potentially was a bit more raw because it's not, the less known stuff. There was a a high possibility that I wouldn't like this sort of music. But saying that, I think, like I say, it was as good as it could have been for me. Like I think it was. I like that sort of combination of the hard and soft. So I'll use those three words again that I used earlier. Hang on, let me find them. I've forgotten. So soft, emotional, and hard. They're the words that I used to describe this album. I did like that sort of that mix of it. It all worked out quite well, which I know is typical Linkin Park style anyway. And I definitely felt emotion there and some pain. I just, like you, couldn't really pick up on the lyrics as such. You know, if this was like a, a Boyzone or a Westlife album, I'd be like, what's this? What sort of music is this? Don't like this, but because it's not that. It's, you know, Chester and this sort of music. I just think it was actually quite a good album for what I was expecting. I could listen to it again. I wouldn't mind listening to it. There's a few songs I didn't really like at all, but overall, it was more than listenable and quite emotional. I just felt the emotion. So yeah, quite impressed with that, I'd say, really. What about you?
Yeah, it's a good sum up. If I changed my words slightly compared to yours, it could have been a lot worse. It's pretty much of it. So who knows? And as I said there, so felt, as I was just saying at the end there, felt the emotions, but felt like wish I could have picked up that more. And I think that would have probably come from the lyrics. And I think this album is not for us as such. Not only we're not inside genre music, we're not. I can imagine someone who's a fan of Linkin Park or a fan of Chester really getting into, like I said, it's a unique album in itself because of how it's been made and what it represents and what it's about. So, like I say, it's not been designed to what's the word, like, you know, commercially try and be like a top pop
Yeah.
album. That makes sense. Like, it's more to it than that, really. Like you, I would happily listen to it again, and I actually feel like I will do, and I think I will bring up lyrics as well as listening through it. But in terms of the album, I think because there was a lot of quite similarities to the songs, as you said, your three-word power phrase, soft, hard, emotion. It's one of those where I'll probably take one or two tracks, have them on a playlist when it comes on, really enjoy to listen to. But I do feel for something like this, it's designed to be listened to together for what it sort of represents. Like I said, it loses quite a bit if it's just a random song, unless you know exactly what it is when it comes on. But yeah, I said it definitely could have been a lot worse. So quite pleased with that. Great concept, sort of an idea, and I said I would like to know more in terms of how it was all sort of put together. So I know the lyrics and the singing may have already been there, but I don't know if all the singing was there and they did all the instrumentals afterwards, or if they, you know, used sophisticated computers to actually type it so it makes it like sound like he's singing or something. But yeah, really glad we got to listen and see this side and look more into, because I didn't know too much of, you know, the background of how and why he died and all this together. So yeah, really a good brain thinking one as well.
Okay, well, there we go. That's the end of our album review. Please keep them coming. We need some more. And we will see you again soon for the next one. Bye.